So the name of the next Nintendo console might have just been leaked by a YouTube survey, and that name is Switch Attach. Really? Not Switch 2? Not Super Switch? Switch Attach? Okay, even though this was a real survey that YouTube put out, I'm sure this is a typo. I really don't think Nintendo is going to call their next system something like Switch Attach. But the more I think about it, this really does sound like a name Nintendo would give one of their consoles. I mean, they called the successor to the Wii the Wii U, which also got me thinking that if Nintendo were to call their next system something like Switch Attach, then they might have another Wii U situation on their hands. That situation being a complete failure of a console after a successful one. And therein lies today's topic. How can Nintendo avoid another Wii U situation as they transition over to their next generation machine? Some of you might think Nintendo is immune to such failures after the gargantuan success that was the Switch, but they do have a history of flubbing console launches as well as just console life cycles in general, so who's to say they couldn't make the same mistake again with their Nintendo Switch successor? Luckily, if they just follow these 7 guidelines, they can avoid another Wii U situation. But you know what you shouldn't avoid? These great deals for all gamers at Kinguin, the best place for gaming and software deals. Here you can buy any game you're looking for with over 200,000 offers, and new deals are added every single day, so it's good to check Kinguin regularly for those daily offers. What's more is that if you add these games to your cart and enter our promo code GAMEX, you can get an additional 12% off your order. Buying games at Kinguin is fast, cheap, and safe, with 24/7 customer support available to help with any issues. I've personally used Kinguin multiple times in the past, and I can attest that they're the real deal. So go to the video description, click the link to Kinguin, and enjoy shopping for some great deals. I guarantee you'll find something you've been looking for a great price. Now let's get back to talking about what Nintendo can do to avoid another Wii U situation. Like avoiding a terrible name. Seriously, a console's name is extremely important. There's a reason why Sony still calls their systems PlayStation. It's because that's already a recognizable name, and every time the number at the end of it goes up, people know that it's a brand new console and not something else. The Wii U being called the Wii U was a mistake. It was not clear by the name that this was a new console, instead sounding more like an accessory to the Wii. Heck, it doesn't help that the U-Draw tablet was a thing, and the Wii U had a tablet for a controller, but when we move on to the Nintendo Switch, that is such a brilliant name. It's only a syllable, and the name itself already sells the concept, switching between the TV to handheld play. What a perfect name, and that is why I think if the next console is going to have a similar concept, it should have the same name, but with something else. And I really feel like Switch 2 is the safest name they could give it. They might get away with Super Switch, but I still feel like that may be a little too vague. Switch 2 already makes it clear that this is the new machine, this is the next version of the Switch, and that is what matters most with this name. But if this thing were to actually be called Switch Attach like this YouTube survey suggests, that must mean the feature of this new machine is to attach to things, like maybe another Switch to make some dual screen device like our April Fool's Day joke last year suggested. Not gonna lie, I kinda dig this concept, but at the same time, something like this might be too complicated for the casual gamer to understand. Which is why my next point is to not overcomplicate this system. The Wii U came with a lot of questions. What does the tablet accessory do? Is this a portable device? How far away can I take it from the TV? How does it work in multiplayer games? What the heck is Nintendo TV? You know, questions like that. It was not a very straightforward console, whereas the Switch was the opposite. Everyone could figure out, oh, I put it in the dock, it's on the TV. I take it out of the dock, I play it in handheld mode. Everyone just understands. Which is why if the next Nintendo console is a Switch 2, then there likely won't be any more questions than that. Unless they include a new gimmick or feature that's tough to explain. Just for the love of Peach, keep things simple. While at the same time, add a compelling hook for the system. The Wii U's hook was dual screen gameplay, but ultimately it failed to live up to that potential. The Switch, on the other hand, had a very compelling hook that made it the 3rd best-selling game console of all time. And maybe the Switch 2 will have that very same hook. Of course, Nintendo will need to entice current Switch owners into buying the system, so the hook may just be something as simple as, oh, here's a Switch, but more powerful and with a bigger screen. That could just be enough. It goes back to the other point of not overcomplicating the system. You basically give people a Nintendo Switch that's more powerful, maybe with a better screen, and bam, you're off to the races. Then, of course, we get to marketing, which for this console, make it clear, make it concise, what is this thing? And let me tell you, the Wii U's marketing was so bad, there's an entire video on the very bad Wii U ads with 10 million views so far. These commercials were just not great. They did a bad job of selling you on the Wii U's concept, and on top of that, they had some really long, drawn-out sketches with Steve from Stranger Things. It was just weird stuff all around. Of course, the Switch has had way better ads that focus more on the games than the people in them, but therein also lies a challenge we'll have to face with the Nintendo Switch 2 or Switch Attach, and this just is not going to be called that. But like I said earlier, their challenge this time is to sell current Switch owners on buying the new Switch. Maybe they'll have to do a thing where someone throws an old Switch in the trash because they just got a new Switch for Christmas or something. I don't know, something along those lines to make it clear that this new machine is better, has more fancier games on it, and heck, if they want, throw another Stranger Things actor in there. I don't care, you get some leeway here. But let's move on to the launch lineup, as I believe Nintendo's next console should have a launch day lineup that is quality over quantity. What do I mean by that? Well, when we compare the Wii U launch day to the Switch launch day, the Wii U launched with 32 games in North America, but the Nintendo Switch only launched with 10. Now, I'm not saying either of these consoles lived and died by their launch day lineups, but it's clear which one was more memorable. That's because the Wii U launched with a bunch of third-party games that were already available on other platforms, and the only major first-party exclusives it launched with were New Super Mario Bros. U and Nintendo Land. The latter of which demonstrated what the Wii U was capable of, sure, but it was mainly a party game. So it wasn't a very exciting launch for the Wii U. But for the Switch, yeah, there was 1-2 Switch, which was a party game. Yeah, there was Just Dance and a few good other games like I Am Setsuna and Snipper Clips. But man, the big kahuna was The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which was a genre-defining masterpiece. And the fact that people were able to play a game this huge on a console this small was something very enticing at the time. And I feel like the Switch 2 should have a similar launch lineup. You don't have to overwhelm new adopters with dozens of games right out of the gate. You gotta give at least one, maybe even a few groundbreaking titles that really show off what the system's capable of. And while we're on the subject of games, I'm thinking about this long term, there really cannot be that many software gaps in the Switch 2's life cycle. Because during the time of the Wii U, that system wouldn't get new games for months, at least new big games. I remember those days, man. I was craving the next Nintendo Direct because I just wanted something to play on my system. The Switch, of course, fixed this tremendously, especially now that Nintendo's developers didn't have to worry about making games for the Nintendo 3DS, so it felt like the Switch was getting a brand new big release from Nintendo every month. But you know, I could foresee potential software gaps with the next Nintendo console because game development these days just takes longer, it's become more expensive, especially as consoles become more powerful, so maybe their game output could be slower this next generation. Maybe not that much, Nintendo has a huge staff of game developers, plus they sit on completed games to wait for the right time to release them, so I have a feeling they got it in the bag here. But you know what would greatly help Nintendo's next console? Third-party support. At least in the first few years. Right now, the Switch third-party support hasn't been as great as it was in the first few years of its life. That's okay because we're already gearing up for the next system anyway, but since this next console will presumably be more powerful than the Switch, that just leaves more opportunities for third parties to jump on board to this new machine. They're going to want to cash in on the portable gaming audience with the Nintendo Switch 2, which just means more games to play on this new machine. And if we're tying this back to the Wii U, it did get some third-party support in the beginning of its life, but once the PS4 and Xbox One came out, a lot of third parties just jumped ship. They just couldn't handle dealing with the Wii U's low specs, so that just greatly contributed to the Wii U's serious drought in games. I honestly feel like once Watch Dogs launched on the Wii U, the third-party support was just gone completely. But that is how Nintendo can avoid another Wii U situation with their next console. Basically, they have to realize what made the Switch a great system to begin with and just go from there. While at the same time, they can't just repeat everything they did for the Nintendo Switch, because now they face the challenge of getting current Switch owners to buy the new Switch, and there's over 100 million people who own the current Switch, so they have a lot of convincing to do there. But I want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments how you think Nintendo could avoid another Wii U situation with the Nintendo Switch attach. Just kidding, Switch 2. And until next time, bye-bye.